Hello, YouTube friends. Welcome back to those of you who are returning, and welcome for the first time for those of you who just stumbled upon my channel. My name's Holly, and this is my little corner of the internet, and I'm still deciding where and how this channel is going to, where it's going to land and how it's going to evolve. But right now I'm letting it center on books, and I take inspiration from the booktube people who I have come to really enjoy watching here on YouTube. So thanks, and I appreciate those of you who are disciplined in making your videos, and I so enjoy. I don't have a huge list of people that I follow, which is actually in keeping with my friendships in real life, because I never need or really even want a big circle. I just want like a circle that feels comfy and cozy and comforting. So anyway, I'm trying to add some of that comfy, cozy energy here, and I hope that that speaks to you. So I wanted to catch up on what I've been reading because I'm really excited. Like, I have my reading mojo back, and it took me a while. So if you guys are like me and it's you're finding it hard to settle down and have the attention span to read for more than like 3 paragraphs, just keep at it, take heart, because I honestly think it's taken 2 years for me to get back. And I hope at this point I continue to get even better and better. And one of the things I'm really excited about is that my comprehension's so much better. So I'm able to move through a book, remembering, not having to go back so much. It's just becoming a much smoother and more enjoyable process. So I've actually finished some books in the couple, let's see, I think these have all been in the last week that I have finished them. But I am going to start with this book, which I shared with you guys a few videos ago. It's a little tiny book that I got on Thrift Books, which is where I get almost all my books at this point. And I did the first recipe that appealed to me, which was the plum almond scones. And I posted that recipe so you guys could try it yourselves. And I have to say, I realized afterwards that I massacred the typing of that recipe. There was a lot of goof ups, but I don't think there were any goof ups that you couldn't have figured out and probably had a successful run at making that recipe. And I was too lazy to go back and edit it. So sorry about that. But anyway, and you know what else occurs to me all the time when I'm thinking about like making my next YouTube video, and then I'm going to tell you about the next recipe I tried, is that I think it was 2 videos ago, but it might have just been 1 ago. I was talking about Salem, Massachusetts in regards to the witch trials, and I said Winston-Salem, and I know that that's not the same thing. So anyway, sometimes I make those little verbal goof ups or typographical goof ups, and then I kind of obsess about them, thinking about them forevermore. So anyway, now I've said that. Okay, so I made the plum almond scones, delicious, 11 out of 10. Then I tried orange poppy seed scones, and these were much more like what I expect from a scone. The plum almond scones were so like, what were they? They were way more like a, oh, I don't even know. They weren't a popover, but they weren't the crumbly kind of scone thing. So these were. So they were really good, but it was almost a little bit of a letdown after having those phenomenal plum almond scones. So I still would recommend this. These would be more the kind I would have with coffee. And then what's the next one that I'm planning on trying? I have a paper clip wherever it is. Yeah. I want to try blueberry coffee cake scones, and I have all the ingredients that I would need, I believe. And also this makes me think of my friend Linda here on YouTube, who's taking a break right now. But she was the one who said to me, I was saying something about not being able to get fresh blueberries, and she said, I just use frozen ones. And I was like, oh yeah, like how did that not occur to me? So anyway, that's the next one I'm going to try. So mostly I'm bringing this up because I made this little deal with myself. If I was going to start buying recipe books, I needed to actually use them. So I'm doing good with this one. I'd like to choose, after I do the blueberry coffee cake, I'd like to try a savory recipe, and then I will feel like I got my bang for my buck from this little book. So, and then I finished this book and I loved it. It was called The Muse by Jessie Burton. And I know I have talked about this book here in the past when I was choosing it and getting it. So it's gone the whole evolution on this channel. And I very much enjoyed it. It's 2 stories that interweave between 2 timelines. and one in the mid-late 60s and the other one in the late 30s. One in England in the 60s, and in the 30s were in Spain. And all of a sudden I'm forgetting where, I think Malaga. And I think that's how you pronounce it. I think it's Malaga, but it might be Malaga. I don't know. Anyway, Malaga, or just outside of that, like in the countryside. So the story in the 30s is sort of centered around not only art, which is the main focus of this book, along with the stories of the characters. It talks about the lead up to the Spanish Civil War, which I kind of have a little bit of a history of interest there. I love anything from Spain. And in college, I did a oral report on the mural Guernica by Pablo Picasso. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Guernica might be. And so I had have a little bit of knowledge there. I was never very interested in history in school. Like now I am when I read stories, but just the dry reading it from a textbook, I never got on board with it. So I didn't know a lot going in. But then when I was in college, I took a 2-semester course on the Spanish. It was called The History and Culture of Spain. And so I don't know if we got that far. I don't feel like we got that modern in that class, but we might have. But anyway, this the part in the 30s centered around that time, and it was really interesting and kind of linked back to some things I knew. So that sort of bolstered my feeling of like using past knowledge to enhance the experience of reading a book. And I very much enjoyed the whole story. And it occurred to me recently, at 55 years old, which I feel the need to tell my age every time I make a video, which is weird. It's like I'm kind of trying to place myself for you guys, which is odd. But anyway, I feel like I'm kind of in the mood to this sounds so trite and lame, but kind of like reinvent myself a little bit, like do something new with my hair and find a little bit more, not contemporary, but, kind of spruce up my wardrobe, find some really solid pieces to always have and to not feel like I need so many clothes. All that to say, I've noticed as I've been reading books lately that I'm kind of absorbing that for myself, and I can recognize the things that call to me and where my interests are and what's comforting to me, because I'm always seeking comfort. So anyway, this book was, I think, just shy of 400 pages. And I moved through it pretty fast. So that made me feel great. Finished that one. Then I think the next night or two, I finished this one. It was Grayson by Lynn Cox. And Lynn is also a fellow UCSB alumni. And so I felt particularly drawn when I found that out. I felt particularly drawn to this book. It originally came as a recommendation from one of my booktube favorites, Paul. And I will put his channel down below in the, whatever you call that, the more information area. So go check Paul's channel out, because he is wonderful at talking about books. I find his videos so charming and comforting. And that's pretty much where my booktube interest lies in. And I'm really enjoying all the different perspectives that I'm getting on books. I would say there's about 5 booktubes that I watch regularly, and I really enjoy getting people's perspective. And I never would have, I don't think, stumbled upon this book had it not been, had Paul not talked about it. It's a sweet story about a woman open water swimming out in the ocean in Southern California, and she realizes that a baby whale has gotten separated from his mother. A baby gray whale has gotten separated from his mother, and so she's doing her best to stay in the water and guide him back to her. She has to find him. It's a really charming story. It's not very long. It's I don't know, 150 pages, something like that. Yeah, just shy of. And originally when I got this book, I thought, oh, I'll read it and then I'll send it to Mom. And I was telling her about it this past weekend when we were on the phone, and she is interested. So I was like, well, you better make your video, Holly, so you can hold the book up. So this is the second book I finished in the last couple weeks. And then just a couple days ago, I finally finished this one, which, if I'm not mistaken, I know I got it in February, but I think I I started reading it shortly thereafter. So even if we say March 1st, it still took me a little while. But this was my morning read. And I know I've mentioned this book at least a couple times on this channel. Sorry, my nose is so itchy with allergies right now. It's killing me. So Ziggyology by Paul Goddard, right? No, Simon Goddard. Who's Paul Goddard? Sounds like that must be a celebrity if it rolled off my tongue like that. If you like David Bowie, you will like this book. And, you know, this is the sweet spot of the Ziggy Stardust era. So, you know, if you're a Bowie fan, this is probably going to be something that really appeals to you. And it did appeal to me. I read it, you know, just a few pages at a time over those months. My morning read, if I haven't already said that, I typically have a book or two that I'm reading in the mornings and a book or two that I read in the evenings. And this one, as I got towards the end, I was reading a lot more. And I'm realizing maybe that's always a thing as you start wanting to finish the book and you're really engaged and you start reading more pages, or I do anyway, towards the end. So the other thing that I noticed about this book, and I'm sure it's intentional, it was written with this sort of cosmic bent. Like he talks so much about synchronicities of people who influenced David Bowie and synchronicities of those people's histories and how certain people were born at the same time in the same general places. And, you know, he matched up the timeline of Elvis and all the other stars who were coming up at that point. There's a huge part about Mark Bolan and Little Richard. So it's a great book, and I'm so happy to have read it. It is about 330 pages, and I recommend it. So then I just felt like I was on such a massive roll, and I was so happy with how that was going. So I've said in past videos that I often, once I really love a book, when it's finished, I just kind of have to be still and not read anything for at least a few days so I can let that story settle. But I was on such a roll and I was on such a high from having finished 3 books that I just dove right back in, and I picked 2 new books for the evening. One is called The Heart by, and I'm not able to, I probably won't pronounce this last name correctly, Marc Petitjean. I'll show you how it's spelled. Yeah, as much as I love French language, French culture, I don't speak it so hotly. Hotly? Holly. Anyway, so this is Frida Kahlo in Paris. I think this is her one and only trip to Paris, and I'm not sure how long she stays here, a couple months maybe. I'm still kind of in the beginning of it. I'm on page 70 though, so I'm moving along. And how many pages is it total? I don't know why that is even a thing, but it looks like it's about 190 pages. Do you guys find that when you flip to the back of the book, when you're trying to see how long it is, if you do that, that you I put my eyes out of focus so that I can't accidentally read some really important thing that's going to happen. Anyway, this author is the son of a gentleman in Paris who was very involved in the art world, or at least a specific part of it, mostly to do with surrealists, I believe. And so this fella's father is purported to have had a brief affair with Frida, but perhaps a pretty meaningful one or impactful one, because she gifted him with one of her paintings called The Heart. And it hung on their wall. And this man grew up with this beautiful Frida Kahlo painting just hanging in his house. So this story is him trying to piece together and see if it's indeed true that they had an affair, what the nature of their relationship, and kind of seeing, this is a kind of a really specific point in Frida's life. She doesn't have Diego with her. They're actually in a really bad place. She's just found out about his infidelity with her little sister and her younger sister anyway. I don't think she wasn't a child, but she was her younger sister, and he had been unfaithful with her, and I think it had been going on for a while. So anyway, she's heartbroken, but also Frida, and so she's curious and seeing how people live in France. And I'm enjoying it a lot, and I'm moving through it pretty quickly. So I'm happy to say it might not be more than another week or so before I finish that one. And then at the same time, or also my other evening read is a book I splurged on, a nice big new hardback. by Graydon Carter, who was the editor of Vanity Fair for quite some time. I know it'll tell me right here. He started in 1992, and of course it's not telling me, but anyway, he was there for a significant amount of time, and he worked in the magazine industry leading up to that as well. So far I've gotten through a bit of the childhood stuff that he talks about, his first jobs, going off to attempting college, and then getting swept up in the world of magazines. And as I have made mention here many times, I loved magazines. When I was growing up from about the age of 11, well into my adulthood, I got so many magazines. At one point, it was kind of ridiculous how many magazines I got in a month, but I used to get them all. And including, I used to be interested in celebrity culture, which I very much am not anymore, but I used to get those kinds of magazines like People. Anyway, I used to read at least 3 to 4 magazines a month, and sometimes as many as 8. So I'm finding this really interesting, and I like the way he writes. And I think these are his illustrations, but I will have to verify. I think he signs his illustrations with like his very formal name. I can't find an illustration, but I'm pretty sure they're his. They're just these little line drawings, and I love them. I love them. I love really simple drawings like that convey so much. Anyway, I am about 60 pages along in this one. No, I'm 100 pages along in this one. So I'm cooking here too. I'm trying to go to bed before I'm just like incredibly tired and I don't know, and I can't read. So if I go to bed before that point, I can usually get in a good amount of pages in both of these books. Like last night, I didn't. I was so tired by the time I went to bed. Okay, let's wrap this up pretty soon. I've got a couple more things to share with you guys. You guys remember that I'm on this quest to re-analog my life, and although this is digital, but anyway, I don't want to stream movies. I want to talk on a real phone, which I don't have. I don't know. I just have suddenly gotten very romantic notions about life before the internet. And I always have to mention here that I am grateful for all the convenience that it's offered me. I'm so grateful because internet gives me the chance to stay in touch with my family in ways I wouldn't be able to. I couldn't talk on the phone with them as much as we text back and forth during a day. And so I am appreciative. I probably just messed up my sound by doing this. I constantly have issues with sound. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is, I've been buying DVDs. And one of the DVDs I bought, which I got sent on kind of a little bit of a rabbit hole because of my new reading thing and thinking of themes for my videos. This theme didn't really take off, but I read Kate DiCamillo's Despereaux, which was about a little mouse who becomes this little warrior. And it was a sweet book. I'm dying to find a little kid in my life who I can give this book to. But anyway, then I thought, I have a thing for mice in children's stories. And there's a book that I'm looking at right now that I'd like to get that I know I had when I was young. It's about a little mouse. I bought a vintage copy of Mouse on the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. And I decided I was going to go on this little thing and sort of research the mice characters in my childhood reading and movie watching. And I thought of The Rescuers. So, and I know that I love this movie, even though it had been years since I'd seen it. So I bought it and oh my God, so cute. The illustrations, the way this is illustrated, the way it's drawn is so much rougher than a normal Disney movie. And I don't know if that was a style choice or that was a budget choice, but it gave it a real cozy kind of energy. So I love the story. I had forgotten a lot of it, but a lot of it came back to me while I was watching it. And honestly, I don't know if I've watched this movie all the way through since I first saw it in the theaters when I was 8 years old. But it's charming as ever. And I think anybody would like it. I don't really watch a lot of kids' movies, but the ones that make me nostalgic, I do. And this movie makes me intensely nostalgic. It was a big favorite growing up. And I think part of it is because it was on, when we first got HBO and there were like 5 movies and they would just cycle through the days, through the weeks. And so you'd end up watching you know, whatever movies were available, if you liked them at all, you ended up watching like half an hour at a time all the time. And I think this might be one of those movies, because I've seen it many times, although I'd forgotten a lot, and we just rewatched this one too. So A plus for Goldie's wardrobe. And it was like, this was another one where I was getting inspiration, like, okay, what do you like about her outfit, and how could you duplicate that? And I don't have Goldie Hawn's shape, so some of the things she wears I wouldn't feel personally comfortable in, but it was very inspiring, her style. And Bert is so charming. So that was a super fun rewatch. And I'm really glad to have both of these now in my ever-growing library. Although I've kind of taken a little break on buying a bunch of movies. But I have one right now in my thrift books cart waiting for me to say yes or no soon. Last book that I will mention, I bought from eBay because I didn't want a new cover. I wanted, and I don't know if this is an original cover, but this book, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I was so terrified of this movie growing up. I mean, like to this day, just the name Chitty Chitty Bang Bang sends a chill up my spine. And I've come to learn over the years that it's actually, a lot of people, this is a favorite, which just shocks me. I don't think I've watched this since I was little. I don't think I was brave enough to watch it after the first time. And I'm thinking maybe, I forget, I've looked this up, but I kind of forget what year. A bunch of stuff just fell over back there. I can't remember exactly what year this came out in the theaters, but based on whatever I learned, I think I realized I must have been a little bit too young for this. I was probably like 4. If I remember correctly, that's about when it came out in the theaters. I know I wasn't 5. So I'm guessing I was just a little too young to understand, and the image was so terrifying, and there's people who steal children in this movie, so it's not hard to figure out why I was scared of it. All that to say, when I realized it was a book originally by Ian Fleming, and Roald Dahl wrote the screenplay when it went into the movie, I just felt compelled to read it. So I got this old book, but it's in pretty good condition, I must say. It's got a tiny little tear in a couple places, and it's a little thin right here. But for being from, I think this might even be from the late 60s, 1960. I think this printing is 1968. It's in great condition. Like, I don't think this even maybe got read. But look, illustrations. So I decided, since I've lived my life being terrified of that movie, I decided to read the story and learn a little bit more about it. Because my understanding that Ian Fleming wrote this book for his young son, who was feeling very left out of his life because he was so busy with the Bond films. So anyway, I thought it might, what if it cracks open some code to young Holly and like makes me understand myself better? So anyway, that's on tap. I'm hoping to get to this summer. And I have other books that I'd like to get to, but that'll be for another video. Now in my brain, I'm like doing this Rolodex thing through my brain, trying to think of things that I was going to say to you guys. But I guess I'll end this by letting you know that I do have some ideas percolating for this channel. And I think that maybe, we'll see, I'm ready to commit to it a little bit more and give a little bit more, like, first I had to just get a handle on what I was doing and get comfortable with this. And then now I feel like I finally got like the audio thing down. That was such an issue for a while. And so I'm kind of getting some ideas. So anyway, all that to say, I do have the intention to give this whole thing a little bit more effort and to apply a bit more discipline to get here more often. So anyway, if you haven't already, I hope you'll subscribe. A like and a comment would be great. I love especially comments. And yeah, that's it for this time. I look forward to reading more and telling you guys more about my reading world next time I pop on here. Have a great rest of your day. Today is Tuesday, July 22nd, I think. So happy deep summer to all of us. I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.